We are previewing the Japanese Grand Prix today, the second of a back-to-back race. Japanese Grand Prix, of course, was completely waterlogged last year, and the early signs this weekend is exactly the same, which is good news. Sam, you must be excited for 6 o'clock start.
Mate, I live for 6 o'clock starts. It's all it's when I'm at my best is at 6 a.m.
Having seen you at 6 a.m, that's untrue.
Horrible. I am a horrible man.
Horrible.
Horrible. You know when this is such this niche British reference already before we even get into the proper show. Remember Johnny English when he uses the muscle relaxing and he can't speak and he goes horrible. That is what I've just done.
I haven't given him a muscle relaxing.
Good start to this. Can't wait for the 6 a.m.
We, as ever, have it the toughest as European F1 fans. And
that joke will get
it's a nice fishing rod you've got there, sir.
It will never get old because we get new listeners every time.
Big bit of American-sized bait.
This comes around. So, American, Australian-sized. They all be mad at us.
Anyone outside of Central Europe.
Sorry, guys.
Hook, line and sinker. Get them every time. Max Verstappen and Red Bull, if you remember, did not win the Singapore Grand Prix. Still doesn't quite feel like that is a right sentence, but it is, apparently. The question is, can Ferrari, or indeed any other team, carry that on? Will it be a 2-race without a win streak for Red Bull? Sam, do you think anyone can step up and do it again?
Well, I mean, it completely depends on what the reasoning factually is behind Red Bull's downfall. And unless I've missed it, I've not seen any publication as to what factually described why they were struggling.
Max Verstappen's
I don't think they understand.
Right, good. That's a great pair of analysis there from my co-hosts. So
I don't think they do understand.
No, I think Ben is definitely more right than Harry in that sense.
No, he's washed.
So it came at an odd time, didn't it? The fact that the dominant car frequently seems to not do well around Singapore. It's just special, a bit unique, you know? Brings something different to the party. Everyone's turning up with sausages and chips, and they've turned up with oysters. And you go, ooh, didn't expect that.
Who has?
Singapore.
You what?
All right. I was struggling to follow that one.
Well, you know, just like Max Verstappen was trying to follow Kevin Magnussen at one point. But we've also got this new technical directive that has come about at the same time. And there's, tinfoil hats are well and truly on. There's a lot of conspiracy theories that this has immediately rendered the current Red Bull car not useless, but not very good. So I guess you have to place your bets, folks. And it depends if you're a betting person. You go down one way or another. Is it just Singapore that's a bit of a bogey track? Or has this technical directive changed more than what people think has actually changed? And are Ferrari now the kings of the rings? I wanted to make it rhyme.
Great.
In all seriousness, I think they are a little bit at risk. I know that Max Verstappen's driving ability was not down and out. He was still on top form. It wasn't Max Verstappen himself, I think, that was the problem in any regard. You look at how well he drove, and we almost all gave him driver of the day on our review of Singapore. It was a fabulous comeback. He did really well on a track that was tough to overtake on. He had to be held back by his race engineer to not overtake people to make sure tyres were working. He wanted to get on with it so much. He was fantastic. Sergio Perez is often the weak link in that team. So it's not Max Verstappen that's the problem here. And I think once again, when we turn up at Japan, I think that Max Verstappen will once again be the individual that is going to do everything that he can do. But I think there's a little bit of doubt in people's minds that actually something weirdly might have shifted through one bad result. That was the chair, by the way.
Any jeopardy, you think, Carrie? I didn't hear that at all.
Oh, good. It squeaked.
No, I'm fairly confident they'll be back this weekend. The technical directive, as much as the conspiracy theorists love it, I either heard or read over the Singapore GP weekend that it wouldn't have, even though it came into force that weekend, the changes that were being made wouldn't affect, you wouldn't see the difference over Singapore.
Not enough time to apply it.
No, but just the type of circuit it is. But you will see the difference in Japan. Now, my point being here is, well, Red Bull were already bad. They were bad in Singapore. So either it's really, really, really hampered them, which I'd find hard to believe, or indeed it was just a bogey track. So if they do turn up to Japan and are also off the pace, then we'll start to put the tinfoil hats away.
Japan feels like the track where we're going to see if it actually does make a difference to teams or not, right? Like you said, but
Precisely.
we've got a very small sample size.
Very small. We've had just Singapore.
It's hard to make a decision off one.
Yeah, and we probably said the same thing. We weren't doing a podcast then, but when Mercedes were dominant and came to Singapore and went very good. But
a better time for everyone.
Exactly. Well, we're doing a podcast.
Yes. Yeah. Not about the racing. It's about our show.
So yeah, but I'm relatively confident that they'll be back in the mix this weekend. What I am hoping is Max Verstappen doesn't just return to the front and dominate again.
You want like that extra 3%, but got the extra 100%.
Give me even some of what we had in Singapore, please, when there were like 4 different cars for the lead.
Could you imagine?
Happy to throw Max in the mix.
Yeah.
But beautiful.
Could you imagine if literally Red Bull are nowhere near as good as they were? They're still very good enough to win a race, but only by like a 10th over Ferrari and Mercedes and McLaren now.
Well, Hamilton and Verstappen will have each other off because that's how that works.
Yeah.
But
right, yeah.
Perez will be out the points anyway.
Obviously. But yeah, so I'm confident they'll be back this weekend. But as you will have heard on our preview podcast, we all thought Ferrari were going to be bad in Singapore. So
I'm so bad at predictions.
Yeah.
To the joy of both myself and Harry this year. Yeah. I'm interested to see if Max Verstappen turns up, and this is, again, niche reference here, but whether Max Verstappen is super hot fire and he's just like, psych.
Oh, man.
I'm winning this race by a country mile.
That's the
and then you've got
Grand
like
Prix.
Christian Horner doing the face over the front of Super Hot Fire. This is getting very niche. But yeah, I am intrigued to see. I think you're right, Harry, on the technical directive. I think it is a little bit of a red herring here. And I think it's much more likely that it is just Singapore being a bit of a weird track to understand. Certainly, we're talking as if Red Bull were miles off. They weren't miles off the pace. Certainly, they missed Q2 versus where they normally are. Sure, they were nowhere near that. But at the same time, I think when it came down to raw race pace, Verstappen was probably about there with the Ferraris and the Mercs, right? I don't think there was much to separate them at all. So in many regards, it seemed as if the issue was more grip related than it was outright pace. Like it was a quick car. It was just slippery as all hell. What's the analogy that Martin Brundle likes to use about the eel? He likes an eel analogy, doesn't he?
Like an eel.
Slippery as an eel.
Was it slippery as an eel?
No, it's a bit more. There's a bit more to it than that, but I can't remember what it is exactly. But
he likes saying it understeers like a shopping trolley, which
He
is
loves
one of
that
my
one.
favourites.
I like to think that Martin Brundle regularly walks around Tesco going, God, it's bloody like a Formula 1 car, this thing.
there was a point in all that, but yeah, I think that Japan will be telling. You're right, because if they are back to where they were in Singapore again, then suddenly you start to ask questions of, well, what's it going to look like for the rest of this year? If they return to what they have been for the rest of this year, then suddenly, okay, Singapore was a one-off, and we can move on with our lives and get back to Red Bull dominance as the way things should be. Certainly 2022 Japanese Grand Prix, we didn't get much of a read pace-wise, so we can't look too much at the form book here. I know, obviously, Max Verstappen led home a Red Bull 1-2 last year. Having said that, it was awful conditions, pretty tough to tell on actual race pace what it was looking like. And also Ferrari, will they be quick here? Do you know the last time Ferrari won at Suzuka?
Michael Schumacher.
It was Michael Schumacher.
Yes.
Why can't I get that right in a quiz? 2003.
2002?
You should have stopped while you're ahead.
I just tried.
He won 04, 2004. But, Raikkonen, Alonso, Vettel, they never won for Ferrari at this track. So it's not a great history for that. I don't even include Massa. Come on, man.
That's savage.
And not on the standard of the other three. No offense to 2008 world champion Felipe Massa, but
He got closer than Alonso to winning a title at Ferrari.
I mean,
actually gave him a car though.
Yeah, true.
We'll
Gave him a good cut.
The expression apparently is slippier than an otter's pocket.
Blimey.
Oh,
That's wrong.
That's what he likes. Yeah.
That's naughty.
I think the otters have pockets?
Yeah, they keep the little pouch, don't they? Put
Yeah.
stones in it.
I don't think that's wrong.
No, and
They keep stones in it.
I think they do. They give their friends pebbles. It's not that funny. It's factually true. The other one that always comes up, which I just saw because I was reading them, was hug the apex like your favourite granny.
Oh,
He
that's a
loves
good
that
one.
doesn't he? He loves that old Martin.
Of course, we've gone down Martin Brundle quotes in this first topic, as was always going to be the case. Sam, what are your thoughts on all of the sort of chasing pack? You say you would love to see a fight between McLaren, Mercedes, Ferrari, all very close again. Can you see them being close again?
Oh, I'm such a victim because I get swept up in the craze every time. I get very excited, and I'm it's like like a little dog when he's gone. I've gone for a walk, and the same thing's happened tomorrow, but it doesn't result in a walk, and I'm excited about it. And it's very frustrating.
Oh, Charles Leclerc's had a good season at Sauber. He's going to win the World Championship.
Yeah, right. That is literally me on a plate. That is quite literally. Anyway, at least Daniel Ricciardo didn't win either.
True.
So, but I do think that the development is changing, and we spoke about this over the summer window, that Red Bull are very much going to be focusing on their 2024 car, and I do think it's going to be tracks like Singapore, tracks like Qatar, Japan, these really heavily technical tracks, drivers' tracks, that have got a lot of downforce enforced on it, where the other teams will keep bringing upgrades. McLaren will keep bringing upgrades. Mercedes will keep bringing upgrades. I don't know what Ferrari are doing. I don't think they do as well. But hey, they got a win last time out, so good for them. And I do think that they will continue to develop their car because for them, there's still a fight in the points tally, right? We spoke about this in the Singapore review. Aston Martin are now essentially closer to being fifth place as they are to being second in the Constructors' Championship. And I think that's a lot to play for. There's a lot of money involved in all of that. And I know that the likes of Mercedes, McLaren, Ferrari will want to ensure that they have got the most revenue coming in. So they will continue to develop. So because of this, I do think that, especially around a track like Japan, which is so a track of two halves, you've got really big, heavy power sections towards the end of the track. And then the start of the track, of course, is the S's. And it's really all about, the mechanical grip of the car and the downforce and how well you can navigate through that section. That I think that you've got a lot of area to play with, like a mini spa, so to speak, where your car can thrive in one half of the track and then it can really struggle in another half of the track. So I do think this track suits a lot of the strengths of both teams in different manners. I like to think they're going to be close.
Certainly from Ferrari's perspective, they can take a lot of heart in the fact that they obviously won at Singapore. The fact that they were good at Monza as well, you've got two completely different circuits there where, okay, Monza-wise, they weren't as competitive as they were at Singapore, but that's two pole positions at two very different tracks on, opposite sides of the world. That'll do. That's pretty encouraging for the rest of this year. Harry, what are your thoughts on all of those chasing pack?
Yeah, it's encouraging that they seem to be getting slightly closer, and that's like a weird thing to say considering that they, one of the chasing pack won the last race. But getting closer, as you say, a different circuit. So they've got to, they've got to fancy their chances. They, like Sam, they can be buoyant about what
Very
happened
buoyant.
very buoyant as well about what happened in Singapore. I guess the problem with the chasing pack is not a problem, but the form book seems to change every weekend. So.
But that's so good, isn't it?
It's
that's
great.
What we want.
Absolutely what we want, but in terms of what those teams want, it's not ideal because you could be like, I know Mercedes has been fairly consistent, but the likes of Ferrari, McLaren to a degree, although I guess slightly less so now, Aston Martin, they've all fluctuated depending on what sort of circuit we're on, and even on the circuits where you think they're going to do well, they don't do well, and almost vice versa. So that I would imagine will be weighing on their mind slightly as they come into Suzuka weekend. I'd say Suzuka's Spa's a good comparison, but I'd say it's like Zandvoort as well, very flowy.
I think it's got a lot more straight line bits in terms of out and out.
Yeah. I agree, but I just in terms of the flow of the
first
of the corners,
2/3 of the track, I definitely agree.
So that's the Gasly podium for Harry's bold prediction then.
Yeah,
it's just gonna get. It'll be first by 8 seconds in the first sector, and then he'll be overtaking as if he is literally running down 130R.
Yes. That'll be
Yeah,
Piastri.
Gasly will have an 8-second lead after the end of the first sector. Piastri will then be leading after the second sector because he's the go to the second sector wherever he goes. And then by the end of the first lap, Verstappen's winning by 30 seconds.
Yeah.
That's how I think it will go.
Perfect. There you go.
Brilliant.
End podcast there.
Speaking of bold predictions,
Am I going? Oh, okay. Play the jingle. Listen to my song.
My F1 bold predictions and how they'll all be wrong.
I actually had that ready for once.
Do you wanna
he's getting better.
I went
you.
on to Reddit earlier. I like Reddit, comment quite frequently. And on the odd occasion,
It sounded so old when you said that.
I
don't
like
know why.
Reddit.
I like Reddit, I do.
On the other, I sent you guys a screenshot because sometimes it's nice to see if we've been mentioning any conversation or anything like that. And there was a conversation about how someone had gotten fed up of another podcast, which I'm not going to name because I do think it would be a bit harsh. And someone commented recommending the Late Breaking F1 podcast. They said we're a lot of fun, and I appreciate that. We've got some good knowledge. I'm going to leave that bit to you two.
Ben does.
And they also gave a shout out to Live Laugh Latifi for his great parody F1 music, which is something like they've never heard before. So I just thought, we've really got something special.
We do. Well, that's lovely. Reminder, by the way, that Live Laugh Latifi does have an album.
Give
if
it
you
a
want to
listen.
go listen to all the other great stuff he's done. Best of the Bin, it's called.
It's a great little album.
Yeah.
Haas is still probably
Sure.
my favourite.
Right, come on, bold predictions.
Is it my go?
Sure.
I haven't really got one.
Yeah.
I'll go.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know if mine's
what
bold.
do you mean you don't have? Well, that's me. No point for Sam this week.
I come out of them so often that at this point I don't know what's bold and what isn't. I was going to say another Ferrari win, but is that bold?
Oh, it's pretty bold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Ferrari to win.
Nice.
I'm a Tifosi now
Love that.
until they don't win, and then I'll be something else.
That's
That's in my head constantly. It's so good.
It's good.
Best anthem.
Ferrari to win.
Harry, you're on a streak of 1.
Thank you.
Better than me.
Well, weirdly, you mentioned a podium for a team that's blue. I'm writing the redemption arc here for Esteban Ocon after Singapore. Let's get in a podium.
You should just say Alpine, mate.
No.
Bacon out for Ocon. Come on.
No. Gasly had the last one. I know Ocon's already had one in Monaco, but
No, I'm standing by my sausage.
Ocon.
Gasly will do it.
What, the podium?
Yep.
No, that's not your bold prediction.
No, but I'm just saying you're going to be wrong. It'll
right.
be Gasly instead.
I'm going to be that wrong. There'll be the other
Because
Alpine.
it happened to him. You mocked him when he said Ocon would get it and Gasly got it. It's happened to you again.
That was top 4. But yeah,
Yeah, whatever.
Ocon podium. I also need it for the team
I
wars.
do not want it for teammate wars. I'm so far ahead for once.
My bold prediction is that we'll have a super close qualifying. I think there will be just 2 temps separating the top 5.
Ben loves a qualifying prediction.
I almost went for a quali
Yep,
prediction,
get it
and
out of
then
the
I
way
was like,
quickly.
nah, Verstappen will come along and smash them all.
2 temps in the top 5.
Nah.
It's going to happen, Ben.
Did you know that at one point in Singapore there was 9 tenths separating the top 16?
It's pretty good.
Genuinely mental.
It's pretty good.
You love that back in the 90s.
I certainly, early 90s, Eurobrun qualifying 6 seconds behind the McLarens. That's what I crave.
Like the old 100%, 107% rule.
What I watch for.
1, 2, 3, 4,
Come on.
5, 6. There they go across the line.
Pole 1, 2, 3, Sam.
Pole, I think Leclerc will be pole. I think Carlos Sainz will make it a double. 2 in a row.
Win. Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks for clarifying that.
I think Leclerc will be second.
Sweet God.
And I think Verstappen will be third. I have lost the plot.
Oh, I really want them to do that.
I'd love it if it was a Ferrari one too.
Just kit you out in all red next episode,
I'd just
I
walk
reckon.
through Trafalgar Square with a megaphone going da 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 da. Right.
Just shouting at tourists. Grazie, ragazzi.
Waving the number 1 and doing the Egypt dance.
Oh, Seb.
Well, that was a perfectly normal pole 1, 2, 3. What about you, Harry?
I also have gone for a Leclerc pole,
Nice one.
but I've gone for a Verstappen win. I've gone for a Perez second and Ocon's third.
I was going to say, it was almost normality for a minute.
Sure.
Almost. I've got Verstappen taking pole position. I've then got Verstappen taking the race win. I've got Charrot Le Carrot
No.
taking second place.
No.
And Carlos Sainz in third.
Jared Le Carrot.
Carrot the carrot. Is this because I got brought a carrot last time out?
Well, we'll get onto that.
Yeah.
The best segment in podcasting.
Off. We're way short of that yet. Okay, let's move on to Under Pressure. The three of us will give our submissions as to who or what we think is under pressure heading into the Japanese Grand Prix. And after we've given our submissions, we'll hand over to some of our Discord members who have given their audio submissions as well. If you'd like to get involved on the next one we do, which is the Qatar Grand Prix, just make sure you join the Discord. The link is in the description, as Sam would say. Make sure you join. There is a submissions channel, and we'll always give you a notification a couple of days ahead of time so you can get those in. But let's give our own ones first of all. Sam, who or what is under pressure?
I think I'm going to go for something a little left field.
Sure.
I'm going to go for Liam Lawson under pressure. This might be his last ever driving a Formula One car. You know, Daniel Ricciardo is in theory rumoured to be back for Qatar, but that is, touch and go. But as Liam Lawson's mind probably stands, this is his last chance to give it a real go. And it's come out recently that he's not being fully considered for the AlphaTauri drive next season. Ricciardo's still likely to get into that seat alongside Yuki Tsunoda. Which means, in theory, that he needs to quite literally be a moving billboard for himself for next season. Because there are, one or two seats left available, I think, up for grabs. I think the Williams seat.
Williams or bust, maybe.
Right. Logan Sargent hasn't exactly had a flyer of a year, and I know that it's kind of his seat to lose, but if Liam Lawson keeps impressing and Red Bull are open to maybe doing a bit of a deal there, I do think that he could sneak himself into a one-year loan, maybe even longer alongside Albon, and I think that would be a really strong team, Liam Lawson, Alex Albon, for the long term. So if he wants to drive, he's got to nail it. I know he's done so brilliantly so far, but I think if he were to have a real dud race or cause a big accident or do something really stupid, he'll be remembered for his last impression rather than how well he did in the previous two races. So I hope he goes out with a bit of a bang and he catches the eye.
And you mentioned the potential of joining Williams for next season. If you are a Patreon member, that is one of our topics that we're going to be discussing in our next Patreon episode. What are Williams' options for next season? So if you want to get involved in that debate, just make sure you click the link in the description, and we'll be chatting about it over there.
Segue is so smooth.
Slick. It's like Carlos Sainz over here.
Smooth operator.
Who's under pressure, Harry?
I have gone for an entire team. I've gone for Aston Martin.
Yeah.
They could do with a result, couldn't they?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
We thought they were going to do well while they'd be in the mix, at least in Singapore. Narrator, they weren't. So they
Hang on to do it.
desperate. I think if they're not this weekend, they'll be hoping Singapore was a blip, basically, and that they can regain some form because they theoretically should have some good. This set of races, Singapore, Japan, and then Qatar should be some good races. And I referenced it being like Zandvoort, where obviously Alonso came second this year. So pressure's on. Some points needed, as you say.
Come on, Lance.
And Lance, I'm not ruling out Lance, but
Well, I mean, I put Fernando Alonso last week for Singapore for the same reason, that I feel like this run of 3 races is so important to how Aston Martin do this season. And first of those 3 did not go very well. So we'll see how Japan and Qatar get on. I do have an idea for them. Vettel's around. Run 3 cars. See if anyone notices.
Yeah, put it in camouflage. You don't see him.
yeah.
He can ride around on one of his bees.
Like I say, he's got a tribute to Jordan's Buzzing Hornets corner, isn't he?
I know I like that curb.
I really
That's
enjoy
good.
that.
That's the reason.
Yeah. He just loves Eddie Jordan.
Bet Eddie Jordan gave someone a call. Could we sponsor it?
Get the old Hornet on there.
Anything for a few pounds, Eddie?
Oh god.
Here's who I think's under pressure. F1.
Oh yeah.
Oh, good.
Arguably, I think we might have had the 3 best races of the season in the last 3 Grand Prix. If we're going Zandvoort, Monza, and Singapore, I think they might be first, second, and third in whatever order you want. So I think what you've probably got with Singapore, the different race winner in Carlos Sainz, the battle for the lead going to the last lap, there might be some more eyes on this Grand Prix than what would have been the case 2 weeks ago. And if they turn up and they see Max Verstappen dominating again, they might well turn off or turn over again. The reality is not everyone is as dedicated to F1 as the three of us. And there will have been some people at the beginning of the season who were very interested in the sport, who might well have been turned off by the Red Bull dominance, which is not a fault of Red Bull in the slightest. It's praising them more than anything. But certainly I feel like the result in Singapore might have just prompted a few people to give F1 another go, so they could really do with another exciting race just to capitalize on that.
I'd love to see that. I know we'd get to, but I'd love to see the viewing figures at the moment from race to race, just to see how much it's declined since race 1.
Spicy.
Yeah, I guess timing's come into that as well. I know we joke about 6 o'clock being a tough time for us Europeans, but certainly if you think about East Coast of the US as well, that's like 1 o'clock in the morning. So I feel like it's natural to expect a dip for some of these races just based on that. But I don't know. Got some more US friendly times coming up as well.
It's a fair point.
Shall we do some subbies?
Yeah.
Subby wobbies.
Do some subbies. Thank you everyone for submitting your under pressures. I'm gonna mix it up. We're gonna go first. Census taker beef. Yep. We're gonna go with beef. Who's
Wagyu beef.
File here is called Japanese ramen. Sure.
Should do the same thing
Hello,
last year.
hope you're all well. Live update, very upset that the Knights are drawing in. Why is it dark at 7:30?
That's a great point.
That's not fun. I'm also going to a
Bedside beef.
bottomless brunch on Saturday.
Bottomless beef.
They like savings beef.
That means I'm going to be extremely hungover for the race. Can't wait. Under pressure, it's Christingles Le Pringles. Get a result, mate. Don't let the team
Come
beat
on,
you
man.
again. Okay, bye.
Nah, Ben, you've got no leg to stand on after
No.
carrot. Like, was it Charrot Le Carrot?
Carrot the carrot.
Chris Stingles, Prestingles, whatever. she
BTS
said.
beef.
Hey,
British summertime
listen.
beef.
You have a fair point. But yeah.
British summertime beef. The GMT beef.
GST beef.
Oh, okay, right. Next up is Bristol Liam, who's got a great accent.
Hello, late breaking. My under pressure for this week is George Russell because he was under pressure before the summer. He did well in Zandvoort, then got a puncture and retired. Did well in Monza, but got a penalty that didn't matter. Then he was doing extremely well in Singapore before he decided he didn't really want to step up on that podium. So he could do with a good result here. Cheers, lads.
It's quite Singapore of him.
Sure.
Banter.
Next up, Carson LGG.
Hey, late breaking. You guys are lucky. I paused playing F1 for this.
Thanks.
My under pressure is Yuki Tsunoda because he actually needs to do something in one of the race weekends.
Fair.
Just a racing lap Yuki would do, mate.
Literally.
Hey. It's hardly his fault, but yeah, fair enough.
Did you say, to be fair, we mocked him for getting the puncture.
Yeah,
Did
true.
you see the side of his car?
Yeah, Perez, absolute murderer
He
in
was a
Singapore.
menace.
Complete menace.
Yeah, that was Perez's second worst moment of the race.
Oh, man.
How?
The McLaren CEO is back. Bungers.
Hello, my
Good
late
work.
breaking lads from across the Big Wet. It's the McLaren CEO, yeah. And most
Yeah.
under pressure for the Japanese Grand Prix is Logan Sargent, who, for lack of better words, is not good at the F1 right now.
Oh.
And he needs to harness his racing idol, Mr. Dale Earnhardt Sr., and raise hail and praise Dale. Yeah.
Praise hail and praise Dale.
Do you get the impression that Bungers committed to the CEO, yeah, and now is regretting it?
Yes.
Because the yeah,
No. He loves it.
It's losing the
it's
enthusiasm.
losing it slightly.
CEO, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Bungers, obviously. Sorry.
No,
Yeah.
go, it's good. Go
You
for
sure?
it. Yeah, go on, mate.
All right, mate. Katie is next.
Hey, late breaking boys. I'm not a first time submitter, but I might as well be. I haven't submitted since Miami. I'm Katie from Kansas. My under pressure for the Japanese Grand Prix is Yuki Tsunoda. Liam Lawson has been doing really, really good since getting put in that seat, especially with points last weekend. And Yuki Tsunoda hasn't been doing anything, not starting, retiring. He was showing real potential in the beginning of the year, but to keep that seat locked in at Red Bull and hopefully move up, he's got to start actually showing up to these races.
A racing lap, as I say.
It's not been good since the summer.
Will do.
Thank you, KFK. Katie from Kansas.
Katie from Kansas, yeah, okay. K4K. Yeah.
Great. Just call me Chief.
Okay, Chief.
Is next.
Wiggum?
What's up, late breakers? It's your boy Chief. My under pressure for the Japanese Grand Prix's got to be Red Bull. Because if they show up next week and are absolute garbage trash cans during practice and qualifying, or they come with all new aero parts like wings, rear wings, floor, etc., we all know who the technical directive was aimed at.
Ooh. You would hope they turn up
your
the wings.
conspiracy music. Yeah.
That is the generic conspiracy music.
All good always, and well, I was going to say apology, but
She was hella late.
she submitted her moment of the race live from Singapore, but we'd already finished and gone to bed, I think.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, sorry, all good always. But anyway, she's back for Suzuka.
Brilliant.
Highly breaking. I'm actually hiding in a corner at work to send in my submission because I sent it in too late on Sunday because I was distracted by Robbie Williams. So hopefully it makes it on the podcast this time. Under pressure has got to be Yuki's team. I mean, I've seen him DNF 2 years in a row at Singapore, and it's his home race next. So just give him a good car. I can't bear to see him so sad. Anyways, love the podcast. Love you guys. Bye.
Thank you, all good always. You are delightful.
Just gonna add,
Yuki Tsunoda's going to finish the first lap, and he's going to like weave across the finishing line, celebrating. Like,
yes! Just add to the list of reasons for not submitting your moment of the race on time. Distracted by Robbie Williams.
Great reason.
Acceptable.
That might be us when we go to Kota because we're doing our live show there. The Killers and Queen are going to be playing.
Yeah.
I might be distracted.
No podcast on the Sunday.
Too drunk.
Great.
missed the race.
Overslept.
Yeah.
Whoops. Could you imagine?
Sorry.
The problem is I can't imagine. Yeah.
Queen were too good. I missed the Grand Prix, but I paid a lot of money to go to.
Oh, God. Okay, next up. Is this? I don't know if this is the first time, but Tiger who went for a pint.
Great name.
Only 7 seconds as well.
Ferrari. I think we're all waiting for it to come crashing down.
It's a fair point.
I'd like to go for a pint with that Tiger.
Wow.
Right.
Cynical Tiger.
Cynical Tiger who went for a pint.
Great.
And just sneaking in at the death, Sebalicious.
He loves MILFs.
Oh, God.
Hello. Just imagine I said that in Japanese, so I sound really cool.
Konnichiwa.
Most under pressure is my...
Could he not have Googled that?
Common knowledge, isn't it?
Hey, this is a last minute one, all right?
Yeah, sorry, Seb. Carry on.
alarm clock, I guess, because I don't like waking up early. I'm a lazy little lad. And seriously, most under pressure is going to be Logie Sarge.
Great.
Because do you want to win? Do you want to drive next year? Do you like F1? Maybe he just likes being American and wants to wave a flag everywhere and go,
Is that what Americans do?
Yeah, we're going to see a lot of that in Texas.
Great. Also love the triple L.
Yeah.
Lazy little lad.
Lazy little lad from Logie Sarge.
Not Live Laugh Latifi.
Also, his submission was under pressure. Seb, you've won our hearts.
Oh. Anyway, that's
that all of them?
That is all of them. Thank you, everyone.
Delightful.
We'll be back on Sunday with that.
Moment of the race on Sunday, of course.